Hello, everyone. My name is Hank Suttala,
And I'm Casey McBride.
and we're here with another fun part two episode of Stir Crazy Shamans. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I was just showing this to Casey before we went on. I didn't plan this, but here's the picture that we used for yesterday, right? And we had part one, spiritual healings. We weren't planning for it to be part one and part two. And coincidentally, I just picked the picture. Here's the picture for part two. It's almost like it was planned, but it totally wasn't. I just love how Spirit.
Well, it was planned.
Well, it
Spirit
was
planned
planned.
it.
Yeah, Spirit planned it. But yesterday we were only on for like 30 minutes, and we cut it a little bit short, and we didn't really do the topic as much justice as we may have been able to had we spent a little bit more time on it. So we wanted to revisit it today for part two for spiritual healings. And please ask your questions in the comments. We love interacting with you if you have a particular question, and share it and subscribe, of course. And I'm just going to share this on my Facebook real quick. So where do you want to start today, Casey?
I guess I'll just share like a little story. One thing I guess not really story, but the things that have been kind of happening recently. I've been doing more spirit guide readings than I ever have done before. And I absolutely love it. But one of the things that I was kind of, I had this idea in my head that there was a certain amount I could do in a day. And then I was like shot after that. And it was a very limited number. And that was true for me in that time. And when I would start to try and push it and do more, I was getting all kinds of weird symptoms. I would be all dizzy, disoriented and ungrounded and all this stuff. And then Hank was directing me to start asking more of these questions, like what can I do? What can I be? What can I allow in order to be able to do unlimited readings with ease and be completely comfortable and grounded and peaceful and healthy and whole the whole time? And so I kept asking that question and allowing things to start to flow and a lot of these old ideas and the idea came up after one reading I did yesterday where I was really I wanted to do a live stream and have fun with it, but I was oh, I'm shot. And then a question came up. Does this have to be because you're doing readings? And I don't know. It wasn't necessarily even the way the question came through or anything, but something clicked and I was like, no, no, it doesn't. And then as soon as I had that kind of this internal shift that happened in my view towards it, I was like, oh, I'm good. And I went on and I think I did more back-to-back mini readings than I had done on any of the ones previously. And I thought I was done for the day.
And another testament to that, I know that I think even yesterday you were kind of not grounded when we started, and that's when we cut it short. And today you just did an accidental one back to back because you scheduled on top of our show time.
Yeah. Oh, funny story about that. I was going to share this with Hank before, but then I decided it would be fun to share it with you guys. So this morning, I had someone on my schedule for a reading, and I'm not going to give names. So this person had a unique name. I don't know, a whole ton of people with this name. And also on my schedule later on in the day was a person with the exact same first name, same spelling and everything. And so I'm in the schedule and I went on and I start texting and I thought I was messaging the person that was scheduled for my first one of the day. And so I had this whole conversation, hey, about 15 minutes, I'll reach out and then we can get started. Oh, yeah, no, that's great. And then she messaged me and I had this, and we're getting close to the time now. It's 2 minutes away. And she goes, yeah, I thought we were scheduled for later today, but that's totally fine. I can do it now. That actually works better. And I went, wait a minute. So I looked at the schedule and it was the wrong person. So I message, so I'm like, I have to message this person real quick and I'll get back to you in 2 seconds. So I messaged the other person with the same name. And I said, I'm so sorry. I usually message people 15 minutes before just to confirm, but we're right on time so we can get started now. And so she's like, oh yeah, that's fine. No problem. And then I messaged this other person that I mistakenly was messaging. And I said, hey, so sorry, we can stick to your original time. And I was just kind of a little frazzled by that. So I was like, but I know you said better earlier works better, so I can just do yours right after this one. And then, so I finish up with the first reading, and I'm like, all right, just give me 15 minutes and I'll jump on. And then I look at the time and I go, Stir Crazy Shamans. It's supposed to be happening like right now.
Yeah, I got a message from Casey. It's just like, shit. And I had already had the awareness. I'm like, I know we're going to start late. And I wanted to push it out an hour. And then I'm like, probably 15 minutes is enough, though. So I bumped it 15 minutes. And then you told me that. I'm like, well, I should have listened to my knowing and gone out an hour.
Oh, so that was just a fun little, some Pukli coming through from Spirit there.
No, but I know the person, too. They've come to some of our events in person. And it's like, yeah, it's a very unique name. So, like, what are the chances you would have two people with that same first name?
Right. Oh, it's great. So,
and I only know that because they posted in one of the groups that the reading. I don't know if you saw the comment, but they were very the reading you gave was spot on. So I saw their comment in the Northeast Ohio development group. Speaking of, if you guys are in Ohio.
Oh, Bianca is on. I just gave her a mini reading on Bianca. Did you come from the free live spirit guide reading group? I'm just really curious.
I totally did not mean to click that. I was trying to put up your groups thing, and somehow when I clicked this, the comment came up.
No, I clicked it.
Oh, you clicked it. Oh man, you're messing with me. I'm like, how did that even happen?
I can click things too, Hank. You're not the only one with the click power.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, now you're Pukli me, man. Stop it.
But either way, Bianca, so glad you're here watching. Thank you. We're happy to have you.
Well, anyway, I was trying to tell people Casey started a Northeast Ohio Psychic Development Group. So if you wanted to go somewhere where you can develop your gifts as a reader, and I would challenge that healers are welcome too, because it's a very similar energy that you tap into when you're giving a healing as well. So there is that as well.
Yes, absolutely, healer. Oh, and she said, no, I'm live on your page. So she was just she came in from the page somehow from Shaman's Way. So awesome. Very cool. Thank you.
How does it get any better than that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, so if you guys are just joining us, because this is, I think, the first time we're streaming to Shaman's Way, we're changing up where we're streaming to. So if it's your first time catching Stir Crazy Shamans, this is all something that started kind of randomly. We were taking a class with one of our teachers, Donzing Kerfman, who's a Paco, a type of South American shamanism, and we were doing a spirit lodge, and we had just had to go to a virtual format. And I thought, well, how much fun would it be to start a YouTube channel called Stir Crazy Shamans? And it was intended that Casey was going to be my first guest. And it was so much fun that it just became our thing. And so we have a lot of fun with it.
Oh, yeah. It's been so amazing. And so much has rose. So much came out of this little, like, hey, do you want to be on as a guest? And we've started working on these projects and collaborating, and like a lot of magic is in the process of coming together and actualizing just from our interactions here. So it's been amazing so far.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad that you're taking this road of possibility together with me.
Oh yeah. So spiritual healings, I guess, is the topic we started.
Well, we don't. There's no rules. It's not like we have to stay on that topic. But we like to go wherever the conversation takes us. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, whether it's about spiritual healing or anything else, we can certainly address that. It sounds like you have a little friend in the background that wants some attention.
Yeah, she wants to get out. Maybe I should. Hannah, do you want to leave? Is that what you're saying? Come on. As everyone sees that I'm in my pajama pants now.
Well, why not, man?
Yes,
I'm in pajama pants too, but I put on a nice shirt, so like it looks like I'm fully dressed. But I got my jammy pants on also. So.
I love it. How does it get any better than that?
Yeah, I can't wait to find out. But anyway, spiritual healings. I had the awareness as I was going through my training at fellowships, because when I first started going to fellowships in Lilydale, I was going mainly for the healing part of it. I had no interest in doing readings, and through developing my gifts as an intuitive and a reader, it really is the same type of energy. Like if you're sitting down and you're really asking the question, what would be the greatest healing for this person? What would create the greatest possibility? Sometimes that might be an energy process, and sometimes that might be a message from spirit, whether it be from a guide or a loved one who's crossed over. So it really is a very similar space that you're going to.
Definitely. And I know that when I was first doing energy healing, not when I was first doing it, but I said when I started to learn more about how to do advanced energy manipulation, when I was getting stuck and not able to do or facilitate healings in the way that as powerfully as I was originally able to, was when I did start to think about like the mechanics of like, okay, how am I manipulating this energy and what can I do to try and blah, blah, blah. And when my healings got really powerful again was when I tapped into my guides around me, the people's guides that we're working with, tuned into their energy and just said, hey, can you guys just take over and do this? And then they're like, yeah, just step out of the way. And then their energy just works through. And I don't know what I'm doing. And they do all the work. And when I shifted from like, how am I going to manipulate and what can I do to heal this person to like, hey, you guys just do it. That's when things got really powerful again.
You know, and that brings up a story. I was working on a client, and I was in that question, like, what can create the greatest? And I got do the 13th rite of Moon Key, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. What is that? And like they said, Lisa knows it. I'm like, Lisa who? And they're like, Lisa Marie Whitefeather. And she's one of my friends on Facebook. And I still don't know at that moment, like what 13th rite of Moon Key is. I'm like, okay, well, energetically, I'm calling in Lisa because there's ways in shamanism you can call in on the shadow self of somebody. And then just energetically, I was guided through to create this orb of energy above. And it ended up being like a womb healing. It was like a healing for the productive organs of a woman. And it's something from the Four Wind Society, I guess. I researched it afterwards, and it turns out it's like I think in line with like 13 moons in a year type of thing. 13th rite of Moon Key is all about feminine healing, and Lisa's energy came in and showed me what to do, and it was great. But it just got out of the way, and it's like, and then afterwards I'm Googling, I'm just like, I can't believe all this. And then I find on the website that Lisa's listed as one of the people who took the training. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, you know, as long as you can either tell me what to do or tell me who to call in that knows how to do it, I'm cool with that. Which is also one reason when I do like Reiki attunements. Well, why do the attunement by myself? I call in like Dr. Uzui. Let's bring in the man. Let him show us like what is the greatest way to acclimate somebody to this energy.
Oh, I'm feeling lots of possibility. So one thing I wanted to say was, all these beings, they're all very alive and real. I wanted to touch on that for some reason to say that. But because they are, and those of us who know that, who are a little more tuned in, why aren't we calling on them for more? You know?
Yeah, they're like sitting on the sidelines. They're like, hey, coach, come on, let me have a shot.
But yeah, you know, if you're excited, I've been talking to a lot of people drawn to me for readings, have been Reiki healers recently, and they're they got star beings and Atlantean beings and like elementals and like all kinds of. And now she wants back in. Hold on. Come on. Yes, you can be a part of the show.
You know, they think that we're training our pets, but really the pets are the ones that have us train. We clean up after them. We do all these things for them. Who trained who, right?
Well, there someone I heard the phrase recently. Dogs have owners and cats have slaves. But don't know if I necessarily agree with that phrasing, but I thought it was kind of funny.
No, they definitely have a different energy about their beingness around people for sure.
Oh yeah. Anyway, but these beings around these hello, yes, around these people who are doing Reiki, like there's again star beings, Atlantean beings, elementals, all these wonderful magical beings. They're sitting there, and like they're telling me, they're like, hey. We're ready to teach them how to do way more than this. And they're like, yeah, when they're ready, we're here tap in and we'll show you how to do all kinds of crazy things. So yeah, they want to help us with, and you don't have to be a healer in order to tap into to the wisdom of all of these spiritual beings. Whatever you're doing, like, you've got an incredible support and guidance system with you. So even if you're just looking to heal yourself, and we all probably could use some healing. Know that we have access to these incredible beings that are with us all the time. So why not? Why not take advantage?
Absolutely. And that's a great question to start your day asking, is what light beings who in Access, we call them teammates. In the shaman tradition that we practice, we call it the Yanapek. In spiritualism, it's called the spirit band. Whatever words you want to use, what accompaniment can I engage that's with me right now? That could be a contribution if I were only willing to receive and be open to allowance. And start asking that, and your days will unfold amazingly, magically every single time.
Oh yeah. And what's amazing to me too is for people who are ready to receive it, and I even think for people who aren't ready to receive it, spirit is like it wants to give us like so much proof and validation of all of these experiences that we're having, and show us like, hey, you if you start to receive, if you're ready to open to receive a little bit, we're going to give you a lot more. Like a story that comes up is like during a couple of these readings I've just done recently, spirit, one of these people's guides came through and was like they were I don't know, I feel like they needed some kind of direct experience with their guides, and so their guide was like, hey, tell them to close their eyes. And I go, okay. He's like, so I tell them to close their eyes, and then like the being will start doing something, and then like in the one case I saw like there was this flashing. I don't want to go into too detail because these are private readings. Like something like flashed right towards their third eye, and I just asked her, I'm like, did you see that like flash right now? Like, she's like, yes. And then like some other things happened, and everything I would ask, I'm like, okay, did you see this there? Yeah. And then I'd ask something else, and at the end there was just this beautiful like experience that happened, but it was all like spirit was like doing this. Okay, ask her if she sees it. Yes, she did. And then like, so for those who are ready to receive it, not only is spirit going to give you proof, but like through giving you the proof that they're here and ready and willing to help, they're going to start to heal you and teach you like instantaneously. It doesn't have to take years and years to learn to communicate with spirit. It doesn't have to take years and years to heal from certain things. It can happen like that if you're in the space to allow it.
Right. And point of view creates reality. One of the things fellowships designed their entire program, I didn't know you were considering maybe doing that for fun down the road sometime after the shaman apprenticeship program. But like mediums used to sit in development circles for years to get a message. And when fellowships designed everything they did, they kind of watched what mediums were doing, unpacked it, which is like an NLP process, and created something that, after one weekend, people were doing messages that sometimes would have taken someone else a year or years to get to. So like if you have the willingness just to receive and to not define what is supposed to be, then you can really open up to that possibilities. But if you do have it in your mind, it takes years to do that. I can't do that. That person spent 10 years of their life, but that same person can turn around and teach what they do in like 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah. And that goes back to the whole, just like the way that we're taught. And that's getting a little into some different waters. But like I really think that, the powers that set up the structure of like these societies that we lived in, consciously or unconsciously designed certain phrases that get programmed into our subconscious mind. Things that people think like, oh, it's just a saying that they used to say, such as if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably true. Anything worth having is worth working hard for.
Oh, that's a terrible implant.
I know, right? But like so many people have that though.
Right. And go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. You go ahead.
Like the things like that, when we align and agree with or resist and react to either of those, if you have a charge either way on it, it's something that locks you into duality. And when Access, we call it a glass ceiling, a limitation. So no matter how much you're consciously looking to change something, if your core belief is, if I don't work hard for it, then it's not worth, or I don't even know the energy of it, but like we do have this mindset that we're taught that if you don't, like, anything worth having is you have to work hard for. And then no matter what we're trying to create, then we create all this crap that goes along with it, because you got to work hard in order to get for it to be a value, but it could come with ease. It's all these little subconscious things that create it. And I had one, I've shared it with that on the stream before, where I got stuck at a young age that rich people are unhappy. So you can either be happy or you could be rich, but you can't be both. And so, like, what am I creating subconsciously when I'm looking to create abundance in my life? What's weighing in more, my subconscious or my conscious? So to get rid of all these subconscious lodestones of energy is how it feels. Start getting rid of that, transforming that, because those no longer serve you, and you don't have to be a slave to that kind of stuff. Only to your cat.
But a great way to start to do that, people say, okay, yeah, but how do I start to shift that, get rid of that? Questions have been coming up for me a lot. Questions are a great way to start shifting that. Ask.
I wonder where you got that
from Spirit. It was from Spirit.
Yeah.
Spirit and a very powerful shaman. Oh, I'm seeing him now. He doesn't have any hair on his head or on his face. Yeah, that's the image I'm getting. This bald shaman.
You can tell we never have any fun doing the show.
Oh, I don't even remember what I was talking about.
Well, how to change, like when you do have these things that you might not even recognize, like how do you start to shift that? And you were saying that the shifting comes with asking a question, other than why. Don't ask why.
So, like what I have been doing with people is, so on top of being able to communicate with people's spirit guides, when I'm connected with them, communicating, I feel things happening in their bodies. So like sometimes a certain message comes through and like, boom, I just feel their heart sink. There's this like really heavy sensation in their like solar plexus or something. So I'll guide them. I'd be like, do you feel that right here? And they're like, yes. There's like, for a lot of people, they're like, whoa, okay, how does he know that? But
you're going to a reader.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true. But still, that's a little intimate. But anyway, so I guide them towards that. And then, so I have them ask questions into that feeling, right? And so that energy it's one of these blockages, one of these limitations, something that we're resisting, right? Or something like that. So I asked them to go into that, and I'll ask different questions. Sometimes I'll ask something along the lines of body, or this sensation right here. What is this acknowledging that I'm not willing to recognize right now? And that's a question I learned from Hank. And then I just tell, the big thing I stress to people though is whatever answer your mind comes up with isn't what you're looking for. Ignore the words that come through the mind. Just feel feel how the energy starts to change and shift in response to that question. And then from there, I'll guide people like on another question. It could be, for some example, what lesson is this heaviness trying to teach me right now? And then we might go from there and then continue further into, can I learn this lesson without all of the heaviness? And then can I move on from that lesson without, without continuing to whatever, and just continue to go in that direction. And but asking those questions really opens up so much possibility. Because instead, if you're sitting there trying to go like with an affirmation of like, I release you, or something. That's very limited, right? We're saying like this one kind of like energy is what's going to get rid of it. Whereas if you ask those questions, now you're open up to like an infinite number of possibilities that could come through, and help to actually like release that in the way that is like the path of least resistance for it.
And in your example, this does feel like it was actually the person's energy or whatnot. But another great question to ask, if in the middle of a reading you were to tell someone something and all of a sudden there's a heaviness, like ask them, is it theirs? Or maybe did they have a little tag along in spirit that they know that once they clear whatever you're talking about, that their vibration is going to shift and they're not going to be around that person and they're like sad. Like there's all kinds of different possibilities when it's a heavy energy too. Like, is it even yours to begin with? Is it something you have to dive into?
Yes. Oh, and I just wanted to pull this one up. Faye says, I've started to recognize things I need to shift by listening to people like you guys.
Yay.
Yes, that is a big part of like why we're here and doing this, is to get people to do that, to start to shift their perception. And so, so thank you.
I thought we were doing this just to have fun.
Well, that's the main thing. But if we can help some people too, that's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Help people to, that was my thing, to heal, which is helping everyone appreciate life. We'll use that from one of our other talks from yesterday. What a great acronym for healing. That was from my friend Darlene DeStefano, who co-authored the book Spirit Talks with me, which is available on Amazon if you want to read a book that I was edited. She actually put in the book that the stuff I wrote was so far above her head that she dumbed it down, which is why I haven't really pushed my own book, because I'm like, you edited me, man, and that was channeling that. You don't edit spirit. But anyway, it was still, I could still say I'm an author. So that was cool.
So that was cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. I could say I'm a teacher and author because I wrote a book.
And I want to put Bianca said, sometimes I feel sensations as well, especially when I read for others. Yeah.
And there's a distinction between, since we're kind of talking about while you're doing the readings, there's a distinction between sensing and feeling. And don't get caught up on the labels, but like look at the energy behind the distinctions. Sensing, in the context I'm using it, is the awareness of an energy, and feeling is when you have that awareness and attach a judgment to it. So like if someone's in a funk, right? Oh, that's an interesting energy. But if you identify that energy as anger or hate or depression or whatever label you want to put on, now you've named it, and now you can sometimes take ownership of it when you label it. So as a reader, it's a really good space to be in the awareness of that energy without labeling a judgment to it.
Yeah, definitely. And but part of that, the fact that you're recognizing, well, I don't know if you are, I kind of got the sense that you're recognizing that these are not your own sensations that you're feeling. That's also extremely helpful, because if we start to identify with the feeling that we get, sometimes what happens is it was something we sense from someone else, but then we go like, oh, why am I feeling so sad? Or something like that, right? And I know Hank is cringing because I asked why.
Oh, no, I didn't even notice. You're calling yourself out.
I did. Look at he's gotten in my head now.
I give Casey a hard time about words, but it's especially when we're on the live streams. Like energetically, he may intend the energy underneath the word to be 100% correct, but if someone's listening and they hear the word "why," that is a victim question. You ask why, and the universe responds by "here's why." Here's another experience to show you why this is happening, and it's like one of those victim cycle questions. So it is very good to avoid. But I don't necessarily think Casey was. Probably the reason I didn't notice it is because energetically you weren't really in that victim space when you asked it. But if you're watching, that's why we sometimes take a step back and beat each other up over word choice. It's not because we're doing something bad, but especially on a live stream, we want to be as clear as we can.
But so, when people feel that and they go, like, oh, I'm feeling sad right now. Like, where did that come, or whatever. And then when it internally, you see it as yours, instead of like recognizing, oh, that's not, I was just sensing that because I was with that person. Then instead of just sensing it when you're in the space of that person, and then when you've disconnected and you're no longer reading them or whatever you're doing, then instead of just, it's gone, you're not connected anymore. Now that you've said that you have the thought that, oh, this is me, it may have originated because you were sensing someone else, but now it's generated and continuing on as your own energy, and that's going to be a lot harder to get rid of. So,
an access tool would be to ask, when you have an energy, is it mine? Who does this belong to? And then they would say, return to sender with awareness. So you're just sending it back with just awareness that it's there. It's not like a judgment that whatever it was good or bad or anything. It's just like, well, this isn't mine, not my monkey. I'm going to give it back to the person because their shit is their fertilizer, spiritual human in transition. So you're not doing a kindness to somebody, being the wounded warrior, absorbing someone's hoocha, their heaviness, and working on it for them. Give it back. It's their shit. They need that to grow a beautiful flower and to achieve their potential and things like that. So you're giving it back only with awareness, not a judgment about whatever it is good or bad.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just seeing Fiona's back there. She's like contemplating whether she's going to start complaining about.
Oh, that's the cat's name, Fiona?
Fiona, yeah. Or Fee. Oh. We just call her Fee for sure.
Okay.
Very cool. Well, you're looking at me. Just like, what the heck, man?
This is the most active I've ever seen the cat. Like, in out.
Well, she's done happy. My my brother used to be nocturnal, basically, and so she had him to hang out with all night long, and then she had me to hang out with during the day if I wasn't working. And now that my brother's back to work, the whole night she doesn't have anyone to play with her. So during the day I hear about it. She tells me all kinds of stories. And she's got a lot to say to catch me up on all these things.
Well, what beings in the spirit world would your cat be in awareness of that you could call in to keep the cat entertained overnight?
Ooh, I never even thought to ask about that.
Well, that's what you have me around here for, is to ask these crazy questions. No, seriously, what being that could also be an energetic contribution to your space could the cat engage with at night so that she doesn't have to be as vocal for you during the day? And whatever that being is and whatever prevents us from calling that being in, we destroy and create any block or limitation around that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So ask that little question and tonight and invite some cat. Okay.
We got Bianca asking a question here.
Yeah.
So Bianca says, question, not sure if it's allowed, but for example, when you're doing healing on or for someone, how do you know when it's being sent during and when it's completed? Is it also sensations? For some reason, my mind is having trouble understanding that.
I'm going to read it out loud one time, and then I'll see what comes to me. Questions, not sure if it's allowed. Questions are always allowed. Well, Gary Douglas has a quote that there's no such thing as a stupid question, only stupid people who don't ask questions. Take that for whatever it's worth. But for example, when you're doing healing on or for someone, how do you know when it's being sent during and when it's completed? It is also sensations. So whenever I'm working with somebody, once I open up the energy and the space, everything just kind of pops to me as I work on somebody. And I know that, I'm just getting inspirations of wherever I need to go, what techniques I need to do. And there's always like a tipping point for me in a session where, especially during concerts when it's a group healing, but even during a personal session, I just kind of know when I've wrapped up whatever they're willing and able to receive in that moment that we've got there. And if I still have time in the session, then I kind of just do some energetic contributions instead of like going after certain things, like once I have that point. But it's just about being in awareness and knowing when you've hit a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And
for me, are you going to pull up our comment?
She had another question. I have some fur babies in spirit. I can send them. Oh, no, that's for your cat.
Yeah.
She has some playmates. Okay. No, I thought it was a follow-up to what we were talking about. But that's also a great question. In Access, there's a thing that you do at the beginning of a session that say, what energy, space, conscious, and choice could my body being a BAM be to gift this person only what they're willing and able to receive? And what energy could I hold to allow them to step into more possibility during the session? Because people do bring their own healings with them. And some people, I have one example, like this one lady said, can you give me an example, like what kind of work you do? And I rattled off something and she goes, oh, she's like, yeah, I'm not ready for you. I'll be back when I'm ready for that. Like she even knew that like where I could take her, she didn't want to go there. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So it's like being in the awareness of gifting only what people can receive and not just being the energetic. Like my friend, my bald brother, Brian in Hawaii, my shamanic brother, I called him like the spiritual sledgehammer. Like he would go in and just whammo, like blast somebody with energy. Poor Ryan.
I used to do that. I used to do that all the time.
And while the energy, the effect is profound, potentially sometimes it caused a little bit more chaos in people's lives than what they were really desiring at that moment. So I'm in the camp of I asked a question and I gift only what the person is willing and able to receive, but at the same time holding the space. Well, what would it take for them to be in the space to receive more, and always looking for that.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, I was just saying we got Faith said, when I give Reiki, I get this warm feeling in my heart, and when it's done, things just feel content. Oh, that's yes, yeah, definitely. And you have to be tuned into what you're feeling from spirit, because some healers, and I went through a phase where this happened, where as I was working on people, I'd be doing this work and like I kind of knew, I'm like, oh, well, it's done. But then I'm looking over there and I'm like, well, it's supposed to be an hour session, right? And so like I said, then I'm like, okay. So then I start like unpacking and doing like all this, extra work, and that like really could have, in a couple of cases, it was too much for the person, where they just got overwhelmed, and then like it took them time, like a lot of time for their physical body to sort of catch up to the work that was done. So instead of really like honoring and listening to what spirit was saying, like, hey, it's time to stop, I was like, well, business got an hour, so better fill it. And then that was a little too much for that person, and they still ended up, benefiting from the healing, but it wasn't in a way that was as comfortable and smooth as it could have been for that person.
One thing that might be if you ever had that happen again, just start asking. Like I tell people, like, it's not a requirement that we have to be silent the entire time. In fact, it's a very big rarity that I would go like a whole session without talking. But because I would do some sort of, like, asking a question might open up a different space and possibility, or just holding the bottom of their feet and just being with them for the rest of the time. If they really were cooked as much as you cook them, like, well, I can just be present. Or even telling the person, I feel we've gone as far as we can go. Do you want me to just be present with you and hold energy and space for you to just relax? Or, we can schedule another half hour a different time, since we didn't use up the full hour. I've done that before too.
Yeah. But, and now that I have more of now that I brought spirit in, no, that's not the right word to say it. Now that I'm working with people's guides and my own guides, and like letting them do the work, things are definitely different. Now, like, it's not me doing it at all, and so I'm the facilitator. I'm the body that's allowing the healing to happen. But like, I don't even. There are times when people ask me afterwards, "What were you doing when this happened?" Like, I felt this. What was that? And I have to tell them, like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That was this guy over here. So yeah, I think certainly, like, surrendering in a way to, whether you're communicating directly with guides or not, surrendering to, whatever they have to provide from the spirit, be it directly from source or through a spirit guide, and like really honoring what's coming through, and again, just stepping out of the way and allowing that to come through, will open up a lot more possibility for you to. Oh, go ahead. You had your mouth open.
Oh, they saw the comment, but I was just waiting. I didn't want to bring up the comment until I knew you were done with what you were talking about.
There you go. That's enough. Good. Yeah, Tracy says.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Tracy says, hello again. I have read yesterday. Thank you again. I do have a question. I am a healer and I am super sensitive. I go out into public and I feel everything, good and bad. How do I shut it off until I need it, or how do I block things at times? It's just too much. So two things on that. One, if you really find yourself in a like, you just get blindsided with energy, because I don't believe personally in protecting, at least not indefinitely. I think of it like a fire, right? If you're in a burning building, like, there's all this awareness around you and it's really overwhelming. You get a blanket, you put in water, you throw it on yourself, get yourself a place where you can process again. And that's the type of protection that I promote. It's like, if you're in a situation like that, go ahead and bring up an energetic shield for the moment that you need it, and ask your guides, like, can you please limit my awareness in this moment? But the reason why it's so overwhelming is, you said it in your own comment, it's good and bad, right? So you have points of view about the energies that you are being aware of. And so when you're in a space of judging something good or bad, and this is not necessarily something that happens overnight, but the tool would be to look at those energies. Wow, that's a very interesting point of view. And it takes a charge off of the judgment about it, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. And that's something that for a long time, and even to this day, like, still certain energies come through, and like instinctively I want to like judge them as like, wow, that sucks. That's really uncomfortable. But lately, as I've been doing like more of these readings and connecting with people, it really is just about being in that space of like just sensing it and feeling, a sensation, if you're super sensitive like me, might be really, really intense. But really, really intense doesn't have to mean bad or even uncomfortable. And go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing. Yes. I have a question to throw out there afterwards, but I was just really in the energy of going along with what you were saying.
But yeah, but another thing that I've learned recently is that you may need to become, how to put this? In my case, I thought it was like, if I become less aware of certain energies or whatever's coming through, then like that'll be more comfortable for the time being when I get overwhelmed. But I've actually learned sort of the opposite. It may not be true for everyone, but for me, opening up more and realizing like, okay, this intense energy I'm feeling, like, oh, there's a being right here and they're trying to communicate this, or like that being is doing this to that person over there. When I then recognize and I'm consciously aware of like what the energy exchange is or where it's coming from, then it doesn't feel as overwhelming. And it's not uncomfortable anymore. And in fact, the more that I do that and the more that I start to recognize all of the complex happenings in spirit, the less and less I even get to that place where I'm feeling that overwhelming energy. It just kind of like it started to really settle down the more I step into like really accepting and allowing whatever needs to come through to come
I'm
through.
so glad you threw allowing in after you said accepting. But it really, like, even being out in public as a healer, you've heard Casey say it on previous episodes, probably myself too, you are but the hollow bone for the energy. And whether you're working with a client one-on-one or you're in a public mall where you have all this energy coming at you, be but a hollow bone, allow that energy to move through you, not to you, like a cloud through the sky. And in that space, you just become like a conduit of redistributing life force energy. That's what really a shaman's doing. They're the hollow bone, and they're constantly just in this state of flow and flux and allowing that to flow through them. And hello, Shirley. That's my sister. She's this is our first stream to Periscope in quite some time, so it's nice to see that you're watching again.
Tracy, I just wanted to say also, I want you to ask a question that I had to ask myself. And one is, so for example, I'm sure you're feeling when you do healing sessions, really intense, strong energy during the healing sessions. But for me, and I'm just going to tell a story because I feel like that may resonate a little bit. For me, I started to realize that when I was in a session and I'm doing the healing, like really intense energy would flow. But because I knew I was in the space that I'm doing healing, it was just really, it was beautiful. And I was like, yes, this is going towards healing. So awesome. Like the more strong energy, the better. So I can get this work done. And it wasn't uncomfortable. It was like really strong, super intense, but I was like going with it and it was awesome. But then when I felt that same level of intense energy while I was like, for example, at the grocery store, the same level of intensity, but now I'm like, oh, this is not the place for it. And I wanted to shut down and get everything. So again, that was one of the points that got me to start to question: is this really actually bad? Is this actually causing me suffering, or am I just judging it based on the circumstances around how and when I'm feeling the energy? And that line of questioning can lead you into sort of shifting the relationship with those sensations.
And Faith's comment has something good too that will add to Tracy's question, that she brings in her spirit animals when she feels intense energies. And that's a great thing. Like if you are feeling overwhelmed, ask what beings of light, what guides, teammates, spirits could be a contribution to help me work through this or be with this right now. And you can always call in your allies and have that be a contribution for you as well. So I love that comment. Thank you, Faith.
Yes, thank you so much.
And Zane would say that, if you're walking through the supermarket and you can tell that the person in front of you is all agitated and they're, he's spitting off all this hoocha and heaviness because they're all annoyed because the clerk's taking too slow or the person in front of them doesn't have a mask on or whatnot, that energy is fair game to process. If you have a technique that will allow it, and the one that Zane teaches in almost every class, because it's such a great technique, is the Saman Chikui, which is father, it translates to father's ring. And so if you, just to give this tool to everybody, basically you just allow yourself to be centered, take a couple deep breaths, whatever you need to do to get to a place of just a little bit of centering. And you just allow the energy from the heavens, from the Hanak Pacha, the upper world, to open up and just allow a purple iridescent rain to cascade down through the entire area. All molecules of being. You just allow this purple rain to cascade down through everything with the idea that it's washing all the heaviness all the way down to the very bottom of our energy field, where it becomes a beautiful gift of fertilizer for our beloved Pachamama, Mother Earth. And she takes it hungrily. For her, it's fertilizer where she's going to use it to grow blessings for us. So if you feel overwhelmed too, whether it's that technique or something from Reiki, just allow the energy to flow and move it and give it to something where it's going to transmute and become something of possibility instead of heaviness.
Yeah, that was interesting that you put that, like it's out in public and that person's spitting that off, so it's fair game to do that.
It's fair game, man. You're shooting over your energy field and other people's, man. I'm taking it. I'm either huchamikuing it, which is another technique, samanchikuing it, something. It's fair game to transmute at that point.
Yeah, I like that because I did. I always, like, I'm a big on asking permission when like doing a reading or healing or whatever. Even though the person is already signed up and is like here and like, yes, I'm ready for this, I still always ask, do I have permission to energetically enter your space to do this? But so yeah, so when you brought up like, hey, it's fair game, they're out in public, that kind of shit, I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I guess if they're affecting other people's energy fields that much, then like, yeah, all right, let's transmute that into something a little more beautiful.
We can probably do a whole episode on the whole idea of permission or not permission, because you'll find out as we go through the shaman program, it might have a different perspective after a couple of Zane's classes. So we'll save that for another one, because it really could be a whole deep dive into a whole other different philosophies and things like that.
And then Net just said, she said, received a reading from Casey today, and it was very inspiring. I have this pure white light energy trying to emerge from me for a long time. This shaman's way is very informative. First time viewer, episode 35 now. I'll be busy watching the other 34 episodes for sure. Thank you for doing this. Thank you, Nanette. And that was such an awesome reading today. Thank you so much for letting me do that. That one was really magical. I don't know if you caught before and were listening. Oh, no, I'm not going to say anything. I realized that was not appropriate. But yeah, beautiful.
She outed herself then. That's
all right.
But just to create context, Stir Crazy Shamans is what Casey and I do together. Shaman's Way is a separate thing. So all the Stir Crazy Shaman episodes are on one YouTube channel. Shaman's Way is another one. But we just started. We're changing up where we're streaming to. So we're hitting Casey's Facebook page, and like starting tomorrow, I'm not even going to be broadcasting to my personal page anymore. I'm going to start a watch party on my phone, so people on my personal page, but we're going to be able to pick up a couple places where we can have our stream go out to. And if you're finding contribution and you're receiving lightness from this, please subscribe, share, do a watch party if you're on Facebook, and share it even more, and just help get I like calling it the contagion of consciousness out there. Let us go viral. Is it too soon for a viral joke?
It was saying, when you did my reading, I could literally feel your energy in my space. It was pretty weird. So you're. Oh, I remember which one yours was too. Funny. So I do so many, sometimes they blur together, but I specifically remember the being that came through and everything. But yeah, I do. So I'm there in spirit with you. So like I kind of just, I have this way of just instantly like teleporting, sort of spiritually, like astrally, not astrally, spiritually, is a better word for it. Yeah. So yeah, I am present in the space. So if you're sensitive enough, like which you are, then people will feel me there. So yeah.
That might be one reason why you especially like to get permission from people, knowing how you're working, just to make sure they're also not taken aback when, hey, who's this weird dude showing up?
Yes. and it's funny because some people have very really protective guides and energy around them. And was that? No, that was someone else. I was going to say, I thought it was her that something happened with. Anyway, it was someone else. Anyway,
they blend together.
Bring it in. What were we talking about?
Asking permission and your energy, people being aware of their space.
Well, sometimes what happens is like people's guides will come up to me, like I don't know, they'll be, for example, like a lion or something, and like I walk up and that lion comes up to me like and then
that was the best lion impression I've ever heard. Wow. I'm making a snippet of that and putting it somewhere. That was great.
But then it's like, what I do, I go into that space of like allowance and just and then like for example, this has happened a few times where like with an animal like that, where I reach my hand out and then the like kind of, and they relax and then they just look down and then we're all cool and then I can start doing the reading. But like I think what happens with a lot of people, it was my energy. I'm sure you can feel it, Hank, and probably and Faith and other people that I've done readings for. I have a lot of energy that flows through me at a given time. So sometimes that can be like a little like overwhelming for really sensitive people. And I think sometimes for certain guides or people that come through, like they're like, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, like the permission thing helps to, I think, like prepare people
Yeah,
a little
and
bit for that.
and every in well, not I don't know every single belief system around spirit guides, but in spiritualism, you have a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper's job is to make sure nothing energetically comes in that's not welcome or that you can't handle. And the Peruvian tradition, the first animal is like the Yanapec would be traditionally like a serpent, like a protective energy. So everybody has that little layer of stay out type of energy when it's needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're all, and in lots of the readings that I've done, a being will come through. A lot of times, people end up asking about that being. Some being will come through, and they're like, "What is that guy about?" Or "What is that animal about?" Or whatever. And then I ask them, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm like they're the bouncer." It's basically what comes through. Like they're the bouncer there to say like when, and then but it's fun. Like some guides, some people I'll ask, like the guide will say something uh, like ask them if they're aware of that feeling when like something comes through spiritually and like they get really afraid, but then like 2 seconds later they're like, "Oh no, I'm fine, I'm relaxed." They go, "Yeah," and then they're like, "Okay, so that's me." And like they show me this image of like a being showing up, and then like how they're like, "Hey, you're not welcome here, get out." And then like that's where the feeling of like that relaxation, like, "Oh no, I'm protected, I'm fine," comes from. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So a lot of we're all aware of a lot more happening in spirit than we give ourselves credit for. Definitely, yeah. Um,
And what would it take for us to be completely aware and allowance of all the possibilities that are around us from the spirit world and beyond? And everything that doesn't allow that, we destroy and uncreate it. Yeah, and if you're still with us, we're about 50 minutes in. We've had a lot of wonderful contributions today. If you have questions or you have a comment, we'd love to interact with you if you want to go ahead and make that. And also take a moment to subscribe to Stir Crazy Shamans and Shaman's Way. In the description, there are links for everything. So you can go there and do all that. So, but thank you everybody so far who's contributed.
yes, and stay tuned to Shaman's Way on YouTube. We'll probably end up doing another live stream reading today on there because I've been having so much fun with them. So check that out later if you're interested.
Yeah, and since he doesn't pre-schedule them, the only way you'll be in time to maybe get that little mini reading is if you get the YouTube notifications. So definitely subscribe.
Yeah, thank
And,
you.
I'm going to be doing, I had the inspiration, Spirit gave me a new acronym. So a while back, I'm going to be doing separate streams on this, probably on my channel. I don't know. We'll see where it's going to be. But I got this whole little cool acronym for COVID, creating opportunities via intuiting divinity. And I'm going to be doing like a 19-part series, like one tool a day of what you can do to get in touch with your intuition and tapping into divinity. So that's going to be fun too.
Very cool. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, this is the most she's, yeah, because we live on opposite sides and everything. So it's good to see you virtually as well.
Oh, wonderful. Opposite sides of the world or the country?
Oh, country. Oh, okay. State. Oh, we're like she's on the east side, I'm on the west side, and we don't see each other too much.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, this was fun. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you all so much for interacting, asking questions, and sharing today. That's what makes these episodes really fun and magical for us. I mean, just hanging out and playing and having fun, that's like great. But when you guys are interacting, we're talking about the things that you're interested in. Like that's what we want to do. That's what we're here for. So yeah, all of the comments, all the questions, Spirit, bring us more of those because that's great. Yeah. And Fiona says that she wants everyone to acknowledge that she helped out during today's live stream. She just wants the recognition and the thanks and the praise.
Well, and she's very happy for whoever it was that has some fur buddies that can be sent over to be nighttime playmates with her.
Yes. Oh, well, that feels like a very comfortable place. Do we want to give a final thought?
I think I did with my COVID thing. That's kind of like something just still got for me. And if you can, like every time you see something in Facebook, that's where I kind of got this inspiration from, is creating opportunities via intuiting divinity. If every time we hear COVID, instead of going to a place of fear, which you could also re-identify as feeling excited and ready. I'm big on acronyms. I'm an acronym nerd. But what possibilities could we create if, when we're talking about the pandemic, if we could go to a place of possibility and a place of centered and oneness instead of a place of fear? So I will leave you with that and to look forward to those episodes.
Yes. I'm just going to say thank you. I'm so grateful for everything that's been happening lately. All of these wonderful people who are tuning in to these live streams that we're doing. And I just want to thank you all so much for bringing your energy with you and just being present and for being you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Nike Katari Kuno. Thank you to all your unique voices in this world. All right, we will love you both. We love you all, and we will see you next time.